can see, it's not big diameter. It's all pretty small, to be honest. It's long lengths. Okay, and this is a view on the back side. Way higher than 2 meters here. And some of this stuff is decent size. An idea of scale. So what we did, we split that wood pile into sort of two distinct sections, and the section on the left, we said that was a width of 5 meters, a height of 1 meter, and a length of 5.2. The section of wood pile number 1 on the right, again, we did some measurements on that. So we had a width of 8 meters, a height of 2, and a length of 5.2. And as you saw when you compared the front to the back, the height of the back was way higher than the height of the front, but we tried to do a bit of an average there. That resulted in 2 volumes, volume of 26 cubic meters and a volume of 83, for a total volume of 109 cubic meters for wood pile number 1. That was what we based our calculations off for wood pile number 1. Now let's have a look at wood pile number 2. Right, and then this is pile number 2. Again, massive amount of wood here. Very similar. Nothing massive on this side. Alright, so pile number 2, 16 meters across the face. It's 2.9 meters high in the tallest spot, dropping down to about 2 meters at the lowest point. And then the length of the trees are 5.9, 6 meters long. So there's a fair bit of wood in this as well. Massive amount, actually. Now, when we take that information, plug it into our little calculator there. So we have an average height, we guessed, at 2.5 meters. A width of 16, as we mentioned, and a length of, we said between 5.9 and 6, we put 6 in. That gave us a total volume of 240 cubic meters. So when we add it all together, 240 cubic meters plus 109, we're at, let's say, 350 cubic meters, 349 cubic meters. Now, not wanting to overcomplicate things, but we're very aware that when you grab a log, split a log, you end up with, we've worked out, between 15 and 25% more volume once it's split compared to a solid log. And obviously that's due to the gaps in the wood as you then split it from being a solid. But what we were also aware of was the fact that there were lots of gaps between these logs. To be honest, we thought the two would sort of cancel each other out. We were happy to go and do all of our calculations, kind of bidding on this job based on 349, 350 cubic meters. And that's how we proceeded. Once we were so far through cutting wood pile number 1, we thought to ourselves that we weren't getting the wood volumes that we thought we would, just from our eye. And we tried to sort of go back and do a few more calculations to really kind of try and understand what the issue could be, which would then give us a better picture for wood pile number 2. So we came up with a little table where we took into account bulking factors, which we've mentioned before, 15 to 25%. And then we also put a gap factor in there. Long story short, once we run all those numbers, we worked out, we thought we would have between 94 and 116 cubic meters when our initial calcs were 109. But as you've seen, that's very subjective. It's subjective, but it gave us a little bit of comfort, assuming the numbers were right, of course, that we would be getting somewhere near to the 109 cubic meters once we finish this wood pile. But only time would tell, so we needed to continue to work our way through this wood. So as we're cutting these logs with the 661, keep an eye on the log that's cut. You'll see them dropping, and each time they drop, they're sort of filling a gap or a void that's between each of the logs. That gap factor plays a huge part of the recalculations in the future. Also, the size of the logs plays a big part as well in the bulking factor, as we'll discuss in a little bit. As we got to the end of woodpile 1, we realised we were nowhere near the 109 cubes that we were expecting. So we brought the excavator in and we were actually sort of dragging logs out of the mud and the dirt and trying to use all of those to bring all the numbers up. But the long and short of it was we reached 79 cubes for woodpile 1. So 79 cubes versus 109 that we were expecting. Something was off with the way we were doing our bulking and gap factor, and that had to be looked into. Now what you can see on the screen here is, look, an idealistic lay of the land. That's a 1.2 metre by 1.2 metre box with circles in there. Those circles obviously representing logs. The smaller ones at 200 diameter, the larger ones at 400 diameter. And as you can see there, within that sort of void, ideally and perfectly all stacked, they fit in quite nicely and you end up with the same amount of volume gap around all the logs. Doesn't matter whether they're large or small. But what doesn't come into play here is the fact that when you have different sized logs, those gaps change. And then when you have lots and lots of logs in the smaller diameter size like we have here, the gaps increase massively because obviously those logs are not perfectly straight. They're pretty straight, these logs, they're quite good, but they're certainly not perfectly straight, and therefore you've got logs sitting on top of logs coming at funny angles, and the gap factor just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the other thing that comes into play here is the bulking factor. And what we're realising is a lot of these logs don't actually get split. A lot of them are just perfect size, so they get thrown straight into the trailer. So with those ones, there's a bulking factor of 0. No split means there's no extra bulk once it's been split. And a lot of the other logs, you look, we're splitting them one time, maybe twice. Occasionally we cut them twice, but usually just sort of one split down the middle. So again, the bulking factor is much less than what we found on our normal logs. Normal sort of size logs, we're working through 300, 400, 500 milli diameter. We get 4, 6 or 8 splits, and the more splits you get, the more bulking you get. So we had to absolutely redo all of our numbers for woodpile number 2. And what we also did is we took a very detailed look at woodpile number 2, took some more accurate measurements, and that resulted in some of our dimensions for the woodpile being changed. Unfortunately, we did find that some of our measurements were off, and that did sort of move our predictions for woodpile 2 down quite a bit, as we'll show you now. One of the things we did to be more accurate with the gap factor is took a photograph of the woodpile as it was stood, took it home and put it up onto a computer screen, and we did a little bit of analysis looking at the photograph, the logs, and what sort of gaps we had in the spaces. So we changed our gap factor to 25, 30 and 40% from 15, 20 and 25. And that was to take into account, like I say, what we were actually measuring on our screen from the photograph. So we also modified our bulking factor. We were calculating using 15, 20 and 25%. And taking into account the information we've just gone through, we revised that bulking factor drastically. From 15% down to 0%, from 20 down to 2.5%, and from 25% down to 5%, obviously drastically affecting the numbers, and we reran all of that through our bulking factor and gap factor spreadsheet. This gave us a lower number of 101 cubic meters and an upper number of 133, with a sweet spot sitting in the middle at 121. And what we did with our recalcs for wood pile number 2 is we said 121, let's assume 5 cubes of wastage. We will plan on getting 116 cubes from pile number 1. We did plan on 240 cubes, and now we were at 116 in our calculations. That's a huge change, and obviously part of the big problem that we had to overcome. Right, and with that information, we had to go and recalculate what we could do from a royalty point of view with the landowner. And as we've mentioned before, he had an amount that he wanted for the wood. Again, long story short, we increased our royalty to support what he was after, which meant it cut into our profits. But we were pretty certain now we knew what we were dealing with. And to be honest, at that point, we had to just make it happen. So we got cracked in and started making some firewood. So we brought in the excavator, and that helped massively with production rates. Really showed our efficiency. We could see it increasing day on day, and basically we spent pile number 2 working our way through it and making sure we were as efficient as we could be. Although of course there's always room for improvement. Okay, so one last look, because next time we come back it might be dark. An awful lot of wood we got through. Some of this last stuff here needs splitting, needs drying. When I was checking with the moisture meter, it was too wet for selling, but dried out for a month or so and it'll be fine. That's our pile of rubbish stuff, ugly wood. Still get a little bit of money for it. There's 2 cubes in there, 1.5, 2 cubes. Right, and then this is the almighty pile of crappy wood and bark and waste. And if you remember, the wood pile started here, went up, over, went right to that tree there. Absolutely fantastic achievement from me and Nath. Really, really pleased with ourselves and what we've got done here in a relatively short period of time. Right, all packed up and ready to go. Just waiting on the truck. And as you watch me loading the trailers on what was the last day, and it was a very, very long day, I'll run through a few stats. At the end of this video, I will put all those stats on the screen and you can sort of read them in your own leisure, but I just thought I'd run through a few key items with you. So wood pile 1, we started 23rd of March and finished on the 10th of May. It took us 11 weeks, 13 working days, and we achieved 79 cubic meters out of that. Wood pile 2 was started on the 10th of May, finished on the 7th of July, and we got 115 cubes out of that. So it was an 8-week process. So we got a lot more cubes in a lot less time on wood pile 2. And you'll see all the stats on what we spent to achieve that coming up the screen right at the very end. And what's the ultimate summary from all of this? Well, mistakes were made, lessons were learned, but you never know how much firewood you've got until you've cut it, split it, got it in the trailer and measured it. And only then do you know how much you've produced. Because estimating it from a wood pile has got so many variables, the task's really difficult. And that's it from me. I'd like to thank you for watching the Rural Project. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, which shows all the production stats of our latest project. And we'll catch you next time on the Rural Project.